Dear friends, would you prefer to do phaco in this case of black cataract? And it's not just a simple black cataract, there's lots more. The case background is an elderly lady who came with a cataracta niger. She had senile dementia and was hard of hearing. She had cardiac problems and I was requested to take up the case into topical. She could not comply with instructions and she kept moving her head about. I would have done SICS, but since I rarely perform it and I feel much more confident with phacoemulsification, I decided to perform phaco in this case. So let's see how this case went. A cataracta niger and a total black cataract being taken up under phacoemulsification. The eyes were also a little deep set, so I filled the chamber with Viscoat, a combination of cohesive and dispersive viscoelastic, chondroitin sulfate and sodium hyaluronic. Now Viscoat sits upon the anterior surface of the lens and it tends to make the capsular rhexis slightly difficult. This is what I realized. You don't get the free flow that you have with methyl cellulose. And suddenly the patient moves her head and her eyes. I was lucky to get away without an extension of the rhexis at this point. So after reassuring the patient and talking to her, she was being operated under topical anesthesia as requested by the cardiologist. A little more Viscoat is insufflated into the eye and I cautiously progress with the capsulotomy. There are small twitching movements that the patient is making throughout the procedure. Also, she is tending to lift up her chin, which is the reason why the inferior part of the eyeball has disappeared under the lower eyelid. So finally, I was quite lucky. I successfully managed to perform a capsular rhexis, which was, although slightly eccentric, was of adequate size. In these very hard cataracts, very little hydrodissection is actually needed, and you should make sure that you inject very small amounts of fluid at multiple locations. And this is what I am doing. So I am rocking the lens and testing for nucleus rotation. I am convinced that this nucleus will rotate. A little more Viscoat injected into the eye before the start of phacoemulsification. So I start the phacoemulsification in the multiburst mode with a power of 50%, a vacuum of 350 millimeters of mercury and a flow rate of 35 cc per minute. This is really a very hard and leathery cataract. Initially I have not reached the adequate depth and that is why the nucleus rotated instead of cracking. Then subsequently I was able to initiate the crack. So it is very important to realize that the zonules tend to be very weak in these patients, and if you do too much of lateral separation you may create a zonular dialysis. Therefore you take your time and very cautiously bury the phaco tip to adequate depth. You just initiate the crack, bury deeper, and then take the chopper in a flex position to the depth and attempt to separate it. Do not create large lateral separations. Just minor and very minuscule amount of lateral separation should be attempted while going deep into the groove. So once again I take hold of the leathery hard nucleus, I create a crack and then I go deep down. You can see that I am able to separate the fragment through and through at that pass. I plod along trying to make multiple small fragments because I know that a tremendous amount of cavitational energy is going to be needed to remove these nuclear fragments. You can see that the fragments are dark brown to almost black in color. So using the same multiburst settings, I am able to mobilize the fragments at this stage, and I am able to eat up some of the fragments, which gives me more space within the capsular bag for my further manipulations. Although in a normal grade 2 cataract I would initially break up the nucleus into the fragments before trying to remove it, in this particular case I am definitely trying to mobilize the fragments and create space within the capsular bag, because this will give me a greater chance of creating a good lateral separation and without stressing out the zonules. Most of the emulsification is performed at the level of the pupillary plane. Fragment removal is also attempted at the level of the pupillary plane. You see that at this point I fill up the anterior chamber with the viscoat. And I continue with phacoemulsification. It's important to constantly remind yourself that after the removal of every 2 pieces of fragments, that you need to fill the chamber with the cohesive and dispersive viscoelastic to coat the endothelium, because a lot of cavitational energy is going to be used in emulsifying this lens, because a hard cataract occupies a lot of mass. So once again I fill the chamber with the dispersive and cohesive viscoelastic. You can see that the patient is moving ahead and a rise. However, with both my side port instrument as well as the phaco probe, I am able to steady the eyes to a certain extent. However, the movement of the patient's chin cannot be fully controlled by me. I am just vocally telling the patient, reassuring her to keep the chin down, and now I have exchanged my sharp chopper with a Sinskey hook, because I have broken the nucleus down into smaller fragments, and continuing with phacoemulsification. The sheer bulk of the nucleus, the leathery constitution of the nucleus, and the fact that as the bag becomes empty, the posterior capsule becomes more mobile, should keep you on your toes while performing hard cataract phacoemulsification. So I thought the entire nucleus is out. However, when I fill up the chamber now, I use only methyl cellulose because the nucleus is out. I realize that the inferior part of the anterior chamber is shallow. The iris is being lifted up slightly, and therefore I suspect that there could be a small fragment hidden under the iris at that point, and I was right. So I find a small fragment hidden under the iris. I tease it out, I bring it into the pupillary plane. Now this is a very hard fragment. It's not possible to remove it with IEA, and therefore I go in with the phaco probe itself, but this time at a reduced setting of power, and very carefully and cautiously I am able to emulsify it and remove it from the eye. There is almost no cortex at all, and therefore I decide to implant the hydrophilic acrylic intraocular lens, which is what this patient opted for during the surgery. The IOL is implanted within the capsular bag, and any residual cortex is finally washed out along with the dispersive viscoelastic. It's important to remove the dispersive viscoelastic as thoroughly as possible, as you know, because they can produce post-op spikes in the intraocular pressure. So the IOL is tilted up and viscoelastic is removed in a segmental fashion from within the capsular bag. So this completes the procedure. You have a nice round pupil which is shut down. The patient's head is completely moving. I'm hardly able to get the cornea into the field. Well, the wound looks okay. There doesn't seem to be any amount of wound burn. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say, and this is the first post-operative day photograph of the patient. Although the cornea is not crystal clear, find that only one quadrant, that's the supranasal quadrant, is slightly hazy, has got mild to moderate striate keratopathy. The rest of the cornea is relatively clear. Patient had a visual acuity of 6/18 with pinhole. I'm sure this striate keratopathy will clear up by the time she comes for her next visit. I thank you for your attention.